Okay.
Nice.
We recording? I think. Oh, I have to make sure.
Well, no, you don't want to like start recording until you like got the slides and like presentation format.
You're
We can.
recording right now.
Oh, oh God. Let's just start it. We'll start it up. Hello, everyone. We're Safe Room, and today we're gonna show you our final presentation of what we got, the recommendations we have for Marion going forward, and let's just jump right into it. So starting off, this is our roadmap. So it's a 6-step roadmap. We start off with the problem, which is ineffective use of social media. We go into our breakdown of our recruitment plan, onto our onboarding process. Next up is managing volunteers, then to our budgeting, and then to our scalability. And these 6 steps will be, as you can see in this next slide here, at the top left, there's a progress bar. We're on the first step right now. There's 6 steps. Each will be filled in with a green little bit. So we're talking about their Instagram presence right here, and we're comparing them to A.G. Gadsden. So breakthroughs on the left, A.G. Gadsden on the right. And the first thing you notice, it's pretty night and day with the type of posts that they have on their Instagram. So breakthroughs Instagram, heavily reliant on quotes and on like current events like census or voting or Happy World Tourism Day, whereas A.G. Gadsden's primary focus is on the kids, like all their posts revolve around that, or the teachers. So we like to see that shift happen with breakthroughs social media presence. Looking at their past few posts, we can see clearly, like when we look at the second and third post there, November's National Scholarship Month and the quote of the day, compare that to the We Love Our 10th Grade and We Love School Year. The amount of impressions are pretty similar, but the amount of likes and comments that they receive on their posts that involve actual people instead of just blocks of text is greatly improved. And this is just a small little section, but pretty sure it's going to be like that for all of their posts. So now we're going on to Megan with the recruitment strategy.
Next up, we're going to go over a recruitment strategy. This acts as an outreach program using social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Recruits should be able to access Breakthrough Birmingham through all 3 platforms. Here's an example of a mock Facebook ad attempting to grab the attention of essentially all volunteers, but we feel as though it would mostly reach middle-aged to older people who would serve best as the front of house volunteers. Facebook is also a great way to create awareness of the organization's mission. Next, we have an example of an Instagram ad that is pulling at the hearts of our college-aged people who may be looking to leverage their marketing skills into a volunteer role or potentially improve their resume by volunteering. Or maybe they weren't looking to volunteer at all until this ad spoke to them. Whatever the case may be, Instagram is a fantastic platform that reaches to the younger generation. Last but most definitely not least, take a look at this example of an ad posted on LinkedIn from Breakthrough Manchester as an attempt to reach the professional community in order to improve the future of the organization. LinkedIn is a great resource that offers nonprofit organizations many ways to benefit from the largest professional network in the world. Whether the organization is looking to find and develop talent, drive nonprofit awareness and build community, fundraise development, or develop your talent or volunteers, LinkedIn is a great resource for all of your nonprofit needs.
Okay, so going along with that, social media is one good way that you can reach out to volunteers, but another like viable way for people who don't necessarily have the access to social media or really that much of a social media presence would be physical flyers. Here we have a mock-up flyer that we designed using a QR code and an actual image from Breakthrough Birmingham's website along with their actual logo, which would be good for people who are walking by, who do have a smartphone, because most people today actually do have a smartphone that has QR code reader capabilities. So just simply walking by in the middle of the street, they might see this flyer, they might pull out their smartphone, read the QR code, and it'll direct them directly to Breakthrough Birmingham's webpage. From there, they'll be able to learn more about the volunteering and the volunteering process, and they can probably go forward towards becoming volunteers and go through Breakthrough Birmingham's onboarding process. And that's going to segue into our next slide.
All right, thanks, Michael. So I'm Reese, and I'm going to discuss the 4 steps for our onboarding process. The first step is going to be spreading the word using flyers and social media. In order for us to find interested volunteers, we will use social media to spread the word by means of Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Regarding the flyers, we are looking to spend a total of $34.50 for 50 flyers. The next step, we're going to hold an interest meeting. It's going to be on Zoom because obviously we all know the global pandemic that we're in. We don't want to do it in person. So the most efficient way is going to be through a Zoom interest meeting, and they'll be able to access that through the flyer. Third step is going to be screening. And after the interest meeting, all who are still interested will fill out an application with personal information to go through our background check process and be cleared for volunteer status. We're looking to spend a total of $100 on background checks, which would be good enough to screen 10 volunteers. Final step is going to be our orientation. And basically, after passing the background check and being cleared, volunteers will be contacted to confirm the start date and time that will be good for them to start volunteering. Next slide, please.
All right, thank you, Reese. So along with that, once the volunteers have been cleared and have been thoroughly recruited to Breakthrough Birmingham, next comes the actual managing of those volunteers. Now for volunteering, how we're going to do that, we're going to go in this to like a 5-to-1 process with incentives. So for many of the volunteers are going to be college-age students, and for many of those college-age students, they're going to be receiving credit hours and letters of recommendations for their time spent serving Breakthrough Birmingham and helping out and volunteering. They're also going to have more incentives along the lines of stipends and financial grants. And in the future, once Breakthrough Birmingham has really gained more funding from local sources or through fundraising, we're definitely going to start including more incentives, somewhat even upward towards $100 for every 100 hours completed. Next slide. And here we have a slide about our volunteer manager and our program director, Marion Mitchell and Leora Chesson. Marion and her other full-time, and Leora is her Marion's other full-time employee. The next layer of the volunteer managers and the next level of the volunteers. This is the 5-to-1. At the top, we have Marion. And what we can see below her are the managers and the volunteers that the volunteer managers will be managing. This is made up of a semi-independent group so that if something comes up in one group and it does not necessarily harm the others. The other groups can continue to function as if nothing were wrong. The reason we see 3 main subgroups at this point is so that we may be able to implement it immediately with 1 back of the house groups and 2 front of the house groups. So basically we're having a way set up so that, we have our backs covered with volunteers. Each volunteer is managed by a volunteer manager. And if something goes wrong, we have another group just waiting in line right after that. Next slide, please.
All righty, so I'm going to take over here and let's talk about what the volunteer managers are going to do. They're going to be in regular communication with Marion, primarily through email, and they're going to find out how to schedule the volunteers, where they need to be. They also have to keep a log of the hours of the volunteers, and to place them with the appropriate programs. They'll have direct contact with Marion. And to start out, we'll have, such as we showed in the previous slide, we'll have 3 managing volunteers, 2 for front of house and 1 for back of house. And like I said, the primary form of communication between these managers and Marion and the managers and the volunteers will be through email. Could I get the next slide, please? So this is going to be the front of house volunteers. These are going to be the educators that we're really going after to actually help the students to be in touch with them. They're going to receive a weekly email from their managing volunteer, and that's going to inform them where they're going to need to be, how they'll get in touch with the students, and whether it'll be in Zoom or in person, given when COVID is over. These guys should be in frequent contact with their managers, and they're going to be dealing. This will be the volunteers who are dealing with the manager volunteers. Can I get the next slide, please? So this is the back of house volunteers. These are the guys who are going to take over our social media program that we put on earlier. These can either be recruited by just your regular run-of-the-mill volunteer. They can come from interns, possibly from the business school who are focusing in marketing. They're also going to be in charge of running background checks, and they're also going to be in charge of outreach. They're going to be behind the scenes, and we're going to recruit them from LinkedIn as well. A great lead for the new back of house volunteers to successfully advertise for Breakthrough's needs as an organization. Breakthrough Birmingham strives to improve children worlds through awareness, raising education, and training throughout communities worldwide through our educational programs. We address a universal need for all families to understand their child's needs and give them the confidence they need to be successful in their endeavors. I'm going to hand it over to Daniel here for the budget.
Okay, now on to the budget. Now, we've pretty much talked about all this, but this is just everything on one page here. We've got the Instagram advertisement. This is going to be a one-time advertisement. It's going to run for 1 week. I'm going to put $200 into it. We have our Facebook advertisement, which looks very similar. It's a one-time advertisement for $200, runs for just 1 week. Besides that, we have a $100 payment to volunteers who achieve 100 hours of volunteer time. This is our incentive program for just incentivizing volunteers to get more people to come to us. Our flyer printing cost is going to be 69 cents per flyer. We're estimating around 50 flyers, so that's going to come out to $34.50. And then background checks. So that's changed. It used to be $50, now it's $10 per check. So background checks for 10 volunteers, that'll be around $100. So all this together, $400 for advertising. The volunteer incentive cost, we've put $0 to $400 range. Well, we put it in that range just because we're going to start the incentive program. It's going to start. It's not going to work retroactively. The hours will start counting as soon as the incentive program begins. So we aren't expecting too many volunteers to achieve that many hours super early, but we're just leaving it at $400 like maximum just to start. The flyer cost is $34.50, background checks of $100, and that gives us a grand total of $534.50 and a range to $934.50. And now back to Thomas.
All righty. I'm just going to with the stability of the project. Our 5-to-1 program, we think it's going to be something that's great for Birmingham, or Breakthrough Birmingham, in the short-term future and also the long-term. It doesn't matter whether Marion's going to have 3 groups or if she's going to have 10 groups. It still greatly limits the people that Marion has to deal with individually, and it puts other people in charge of managing the volunteers. And we're also going to know who's going to be the new managers when we need to enlarge or to create more pods, 5-to-1 pods, by our 100-hour incentive program, because that's going to tell us who's really committed and who's qualified to be in charge of managing other groups. And that is our presentation, I believe.
There's our sources, and thank you for listening. How do I stop? There.